What's up guys, Jam here. Today we'll be covering chapter 14 of Arc 5. Before we get into things, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so don't miss out on future chapter summaries and more ReZero content. Chapter 13 ended with all of the factions having a peaceful dinner with one another. Chapter 14 opens with the aftermath of the dinner, with Subaru having gone to his room. While Subaru was unwinding, he heard Beatrice shout, "Subaru, it looks like while we weren't here, people succeeded in sneaking into our room in fact. It looks like all the futons and towels you messed up were rearranged or replaced." Yes, it's definitely a trap to tempt Betty, I suppose. They're hiding their intentions, in fact. Sometimes people just have good intentions, though the service isn't free. Ever since Subaru and Beatrice formed their contract, they had slept in the same room. Ayo, hold up.
I thought I had it all together, but I was led astray the day you walked away. You were the clock that was ticking in my heart, changed my state of mind, when love's so hard to find. Your feelings changed like the weather, went from clear to gray, all that time of day. How can I go on with the cup falling apart? Love's so hard to find when someone's on your mind.
The reason for this is that Beatrice would sap the excess mana from his gate. Meanwhile, Beatrice had fallen asleep after being traumatized by the toxic wasabi she had at the dinner. Subaru smiles at the sleeping Beatrice and decides to go take a bath. While walking to the bath, Subaru reflects on what happened after dinner. Reinhardt told everyone not to worry as he will be patrolling the hotel at night to make sure nothing happens. And finally, Subaru was able to braid Amelia's hair after dinner. Subaru then stops himself and stares at the lone figure in the hotel's garden. Wilhelm? Wilhelm turns around and smiles. "Subaru, did I surprise you, and are you going to the baths next?" "Yes, that's what I was planning on doing. By the way, I came here to see the garden in the evening, not because I got lost." "That wouldn't happen to you. I also came to indulge in the beauty of the garden, so I believe that I can understand your mood." Subaru can't help but feel embarrassed being praised by someone he looks up to. Wilhelm was the person who he had grown to respect the most in this world, both as a person and as a man. "You probably came here searching for the peace of the garden at night. My presence here must be very frustrating." "Not at all. Rather, seeing the sword demon in this windy garden is so perfect that I want to forever engrave this image in my heart. I like seeing people who shine in the moonlight." Wilhelm laughs and mentions that Subaru shouldn't waste such heartfelt words on him, rather to the woman he loves, to capture her attention. "Putting on those airs would kill all of the lovely butterflies I've attracted, and anyway, the one I want to say those words to wouldn't understand them." Trying to bring out her flawless smile, searching for the perfect words, that anxious feeling is one of the pleasures of love, Subaru. "Oh, you seem to be referencing your faraway love story. Did you ever go through that? Would you like to hear it?" Subaru smiles and tells Wilhelm to include every single detail. Damn, I really should get around to reading the EX2 and EX3 novels, huh? Wilhelm smiles and begins his story. "When I was a young man, I was just as terrible with words as I am now. I never wanted to discuss anything other than swords. I must have bored my wife to no end when we first met." "But your wife didn't dislike talking to that you, right?" "She was an open-minded woman. Because I was such an unsociable person, my wife always supplied the topics during our conversations. On top of that, I failed to notice how drawn I was to her." Subaru laughs and mentions that it sounded like that he was bad at talking to women. "Really, I gave everything to the sword. When I gripped my sword, I forgot about everything else, as if I was merely swinging my sword would give me a way of survival. The one who reminded me of the reason I took it up was my wife." "Is that when you realized you loved her?" Wilhelm pauses briefly before continuing. "You seem to have seen through me, Subaru." Subaru was in awe of Wilhelm's strong love and devotion for his wife, bringing him to the point of tears, but he didn't want to bother Wilhelm with his tears, so he lowered his face to hide them. It didn't seem like Wilhelm noticed Subaru's tears as he continued talking. "Like you said, that was when I realized my feelings for my wife. The sword was everything to me, but it was only one part of who I was. It was my wife who made me realize this obvious truth, and so every time I swing my sword, I'm reminded of her." "Is that true even now?" "That is truer now than it ever was. I try my best to keep holding my sword so that I will continue to be reminded of my wife. Even death could not take her away from my memory, and when my time comes, I want to die with a sword in my hand. I would be with her forever." Subaru takes a deep breath to compose himself before speaking again. "When I die and whatnot, please don't talk about such things that have no sign whatsoever of happening." Wilhelm is confused and isn't sure what to say as Subaru continues. "Crucian Ferris both are very dependent on Wilhelm. Crucia's memory loss is a very serious issue, and Ferris, who is supporting her, hasn't expressed this, but I'm sure he's completely spent himself, so there'll be a mess if Wilhelm doesn't help, and I will be too. I also have many things I'd like to ask you about. Wilhelm cuts Subaru off. I am the same as before, truly terrible with words. It was terrible of me to have you worry so much. Despite my earlier words, I'm not always thinking of death. Although it's an inevitable truth, I've struggled through the hardest challenge already. Wilhelm notices that Subaru seemed troubled and gives him some advice. My wife did this too, the bad habit of neglecting and shoving aside your own feelings as you focus on those of the people around you. Bad habit, is it? No, I'm hardly such a good person. I don't want anything like everyone's happiness. I just want the people I'm close to be happy. Subaru continues by mentioning that he will never be able to match up to Wilhelm's wife. Wilhelm corrects Subaru by telling him that his wife was an ordinary woman who loved flowers and that he will be able to achieve great things by working with others. Subaru can't help but still feel like that Wilhelm is overestimating him. He was weak, not the smartest, and could not do things by himself. While Subaru's lost in thought, he hears Wilhelm apologizing to him. I apologize for bringing up the same things. It must trouble you to hear them over and over again. Subaru sighs and tells Wilhelm that he's an immature little kid who is clumsy at everything he does. Wilhelm smiles and mentions that he's one that he's very fond of. Subaru was deeply touched by Wilhelm's words and didn't know what to say. Wilhelm breaks the silence by apologizing for taking too much of Subaru's time. Subaru apologizes as well for asking too much. Wilhelm tells Subaru it was no big deal and that he's always happy to talk about his wife. Subaru notices where Wilhelm was standing. It was where Reinhardt stood. Wilhelm goes quiet as he hears Subaru. Subaru knows he shouldn't ask, but his curiosity got the best of him. Wilhelm, I don't want to nose into another family's affairs, and I've graduated from being the lively character who insists on hearing everything that's happened to just satisfy my own curiosity, but... Wilhelm gives Subaru the green light to continue. Do you not get along with Reinhardt even though you're family? Wilhelm sighs and answers Subaru's question. While speaking with you, I thought about it. Why am I unable to speak these words to my own grandson? I am a man with a lot of remorse, but there are 3 in particular I can do nothing about. One of them is the distance between me and my grandson. Subaru asks Wilhelm if he regrets it. Wilhelm nods and continues. Even regret shouldn't be allowed. The things I said to my grandson, to Reinhardt, were so harsh. It's something unforgivable and stupid that can't be fixed anymore. I'm honestly so shameful. My grandson certainly resents me now. Thinking of this, I cannot take a step forward. Subaru was very confused and accidentally let out a laugh, which confused Wilhelm. Subaru feels bad and apologizes. Wilhelm seems to be thinking that he's unqualified to be Reinhardt's grandfather. Well, yes, compared to my grandson, I came to a standstill after realizing my mistakes. He's too kind to the cowardly person that I am. Wilhelm is confused by what Subaru means. Subaru tells Wilhelm that an apology would be a good idea. Wilhelm interrupts Subaru by telling him that Reinhardt will not forgive him. If he doesn't forgive you at first, keep apologizing until he does. You're not apologizing to be forgiven, you're apologizing to apologize, right? The person making the apology has nothing to worry about because they're not a bad person. Wilhelm is speechless as he isn't sure what to say. Wilhelm sighs and then tells Subaru that he thinks that apologizing will make things worse. Subaru, who is used to making bad first impressions, tries to reassure Wilhelm. But at least they'll change. Don't you think that any change is better than being stuck in the worst case scenario your situation seems to be in? Wilhelm continues to tell Subaru that it won't be that simple, but Subaru cuts him off. Reinhardt said that he wanted to hear about the battle with the white whale. That guy is surely also looking forward to changing your stiff relationship right now. After a moment of silence between the two, Wilhelm speaks up. My grandson, Reinhardt, would listen to me? Annoy him with the hello first and bounce back if he rejects you. That's happened to me with every girl I've met aside from Amelia. Wilhelm looks up to the sky and says with a smile, "You are invincible." And that sums up chapter 14 of Arc 5. That was a neat follow-up to the last chapter. We got to see and learn more about Wilhelm in this chapter. I'm glad that Tappe isn't leaving us hanging after building up the tension between Reinhardt and Wilhelm. I like both characters and I look forward to when Wilhelm tries to apologize to Reinhardt. Knowing how kind and friendly Reinhardt is, I don't think he'll be cold and reject his grandfather's attempts to fix their relationship. If anything, I believe he would be very happy to have a relationship with Wilhelm again. This is slightly off topic, but Tappe does such a great job of making characters feel human, and some of the series highlights are when characters become better people. Wilhelm attempts to atone for his mistakes and seek forgiveness from his grandson. I'm glad that Tappe isn't just making Subaru be the only character to learn how to become a better person. I hope that Reinhardt will be able to forgive Wilhelm. It'll be a very powerful and emotional moment for sure. Also, now that Wilhelm's wife is brought back up, that reminds me. Why hasn't her existence been erased like the other people who were killed by the white whale? Is there something more to her death? Is she alive and we just don't know? Hopefully we'll find out, otherwise that could be a plot hole. Let me know if you guys have any theories, predictions, or thoughts about the chapter or going forward in the comments section. I'll be reading all of the comments, then responding to and discussing 3 to 5 comments in the next video. Alright, now to get into 4 comments of the last video's comment section. The first one comes in from AnimeFan1234. They wrote, "It is really satisfying to watch how much Subaru has changed from Arc 3. He was such a simp, made by situations in Arc 3, and now he behaves with Emilia in a much better way. After the Sanctuary, he seems to take a step back as he gives Emilia more space and time, letting her decide if she really wants to love Subaru and have a romantic relationship with him. He instead behaves more like a protective friend who flirts with her now and then and takes care not to bother her too much as he did in Arc 3. Subaru has matured so much, man. It kind of makes me sad that in the Taste of Deathloop, Subaru has a small belief that Emilia will never love him. Let us see what happens next in the future story." Agreed, Subaru has gone from simp to Chad. I think it's amazing on Tappei's part to teach Subaru the importance of having a healthy relationship and learning to see Emilia as an actual person. I also appreciate that Subaru is giving Emilia space and time to figure out if she loves him or not. Subaru has definitely matured a lot, and that's why he's the GOAT. Also yeah, the kiss of death scene was really sad and messed up. The second one comes in from SH. They wrote, "It's so heartwarming to see all of the candidates are having fun times with each other and putting aside their differences and rivalries. Garfield is only 14 and he absolutely demolished Elsa in Arc 4. If Elsa didn't have regeneration, the battle would be over in minutes, so imagine how strong he will become in his mid-20s. And you're right, knowing that Regulus is in town, I also think that this arc is going to turn into hell for Subaru and the others. Love your summaries, keep it up." Thanks SH. Also yeah, I still find it hard to believe that Garfield is just 14. I keep forgetting myself. He'll probably be a monster, pun intended, once he hits his 20s. And yes, Regulus is definitely going to make things hell for Subaru and the others too. The third comment comes in from BenmanZXL11. They wrote, "I think Subaru will die." Whoa bro, spoilers. You can't spoil such a major death in the series. The final comment comes in from Ryuk9933. They wrote, "I wish Julius just disappeared." Hopefully you mean Joshua. We have too many tier 3 simps in this world. Julius is pretty cool, but you can always take out someone with a death note. With that being said, thank you so much for the support as always. If you don't want to miss out on future Arc 5 summaries and more ReZero content, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.
I was just there.